Well, the fun never ends. Now I got to get a bunch of clay to bring this up to grade beam. So we'll get some loads brought in here and dumped and spread and keep moving forward. You can tell that guy's a little new.
It's my first day.
See if we can get this one in one pile. Let's hear that tailgate. Come on now. Oh, weak. Wasn't too bright. Better get the peat out of there before that hump gets too high to even drive it away. Still smokes even when it's not running. There, now he's got a little more room to work. All right, so we got all that clay leveled out and brought up to grade beam or pretty close to it. And then we had this stuff dropped off here. So this is all the materials for the 3 garage doors. And they're gonna come in next week and install the rails and all that and mount those in there. Then we did some work leveling out the pad as best we could. Tried to get it as flat as possible. And we got the road crush that we're gonna bring in and compact that all down. And then the concrete guys will do their rebar frame and then come and just do one big pour here. Quite a big pad, 40 by 60, 6 inches deep. It's not cheap, I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, it's coming along. I've also got some electrical contractors and some gas contractors coming in to get me some quotes. And I got new eaves troughs coming in because right now there's no eaves and the rain just comes whipping off that steep roof and falls so far that when the water bounces off the ground, it's kind of staining the walls there. So that's a bit of a bummer, but we'll get those put on and yeah, just keep moving forward on this shop project. And we had the road crush dropped off yesterday, and what a hoot that was, watching the guy blind 90 a quad axle up this second driveway. Yeah. Okay, that's enough updating on the shop. Let's get back to working on Project Snowman. Okay, next goal is to get the sleeper back on the truck so we can seal up the crawl through opening there, and then we can start putting in that interior. So I figured I'd hit the cab first because the weather, it's unusually hot the last few weeks here. And it gets almost too silly to work. So I'm gonna try and work on the cab first. I'm gonna sand this all down and primer it. And then I'll, in the heat of the day, I'll probably move into the garage there and work on the bunk. But I figured, so that last episode I was doing a lot by hand. And that's of course a lot of work to be doing this. So I decided to get myself a Milwaukee orbital sander. And I figured this might help speed things up a bit. Now this is probably the first of many auto body tools I'm going to need, but I figured since I already had the M18 battery packs with my impact, why not stay with Milwaukee and just continue to kind of build out the collection. So another new toy, but hopefully this speeds things up a bit. Well, I think that's the little vacuum deal that picks up the dust. We're working outside, so I'm not too worried about dust. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's got the holes there, so that's what the holes are for on the sanding discs. So it allows the dust to pass through there and into the little canister. Now, let's see how it works. All right. pretty cool. And then different speed settings there. Huh. All right. Well, we'll give that a go. We'll scrape off the old duct tape, and then we'll start cleaning up this panel and get it ready for primer. Yeah, a little tech tip for you. Don't use duct tape to hold stuff onto your cab and then leave it all winter. That is just a mess. And now the glue's still there. That was a screw up. I mean, we could sand it off, but it's like a make work project. I should have come up with something better to seal the opening over the winter, but oh well, live and learn. So let's see how this sander's gonna work. So I got a whole bunch of sanding discs, different grits. So I got 120, 320, and 220. So I'll kind of work my way up. So we'll start with the 120s. Let's see how this thing, oh, already got junk on there. See how this thing works. Oh, it's just Velcro, it's not even sticky. That's pretty slick. Now, I don't know why I need to bother lining up the holes, but we'll see how this works. Okay. Oh, very quiet. I'll speed it up a bit. Wow. That is way faster than sanding by hand. It actually does a pretty decent job. Oh, someone was complaining my rings make annoying sound on the metal, so I'll try and just use my fingertips. But that actually works really, really slick. And look at that, there's not even any fill in the sanding disc. So yeah, all right, well, let's mask up and get going. Yeah, so sometimes you need a stronger tool to get the job done. So in this case, I had these little sanding discs. They just threw on an angle grinder, and that was able to quickly flip off the glue because it was just clogging up. It was just clogging up the sanding discs. So now that I got that off of there, we can continue with the orbital sanding. And then there was a gouge in here that sanding disc just beautifully took down the fiberglass. So now I can just put a little bit of filler in there. And then of course I still gotta work on these on the tops, but yeah, this is time consuming. I guess that's why when you get a quote to get a Kenworth painted, they want like 20-30 grand at body shops, just because there's so many hours of work. But we'll keep picking away at it. We'll get this done one way or another. And the nice thing is this kind of my practice panel, because once the bunk's on here, you're not really going to see it anyway. So it's, like I say, good practice. So sometimes you do get a little smarter as you go. Figured rather than put another garbage bag and duct tape on the inside to keep all the dust and paint from going into the cab, I thought, why not just get a sheet of plywood and clamp it to the little ridge, which is what I did there. So I think that'll work quite nice. And then I've just been working on the cap here on the cab, and of course it's fiberglass, and being out in the sun for 40 plus years, sun, rains, snow, it's developed these little cracks. So what I understand is you got to sand these right down to the bottom and get them out of there, because otherwise if you go and put nice new paint over top, these cracks will shine through. So that's going to take a bit of work, but we'll get her done. Okay, so that's coming along. you can see the cracks are still there. So it's going to take a bit more sanding to get them bottomed out. But it's working good, nice and smooth. I am impressed with this little Milwaukee random orbital sander, 5-inch. So, and the battery pack, I just had to swap it. It was about, I don't know, 45 minutes of sanding. And it takes about that long to charge them. So as long as you got 2, you can kind of keep yourself going. And as long as you line up the holes on these sanding discs, the dust actually does blow out. It's almost like a little exhaust pipe. So as long as you keep that pointed away from yourself, your dust is always leaving in another direction. So that's cool. And then I also wanted to highlight these, the 3M, I think they're called Work Tunes. They're not a sponsor. Again, I'd love if they were, but they're not. But I just picked these up. They're obviously hearing protection, but they're also Bluetooth. So while you're mowing your lawn or sanding your Kenworth, you can listen to your country and Western music. Pretty sweet. So I just figured I'd put a little glass to fill that in. And the last video, people were saying, don't be using cardboard, because cardboard can, I don't know, somehow taint the material. So fair enough, I'll go back to my old plastic board here. And again, we're trying to fold this stuff, not stir it. Okay, something like that. And we'll just put a little in there. Not a whole bunch, not very deep. And the more you put in there, whoops, the more you have to take out. Again, I am not a professional, as you may have figured out by now. That's not too bad. Something like that. Oops. You gotta work quick with this stuff because it hardens up like dinosaur shit in a few minutes. Now, where else do I need fiberglass? Do a little experiment here. See what happens when you use fiberglass filler to fill in those little hairline cracks. It's hardening up. Yeah, that turned out quite nice. The cracks are gone. Now I switched to 80 grit to be able to knock down the fiberglass that I put in there. So now that it's semi-smooth, this still needs a little bit of, I'm just gonna put a light coating of Bondo in there, and then I'll go back to my 120 and then we'll finish it up with 220. But yeah, that's coming along real nice. We're getting there. Little by little, bit by bit. Starting to smooth out, not too bad. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect because you're never going to see it, but I like to do things as good as I can get them. And again, it's good practice. So we'll keep doing a bit more sanding and then we'll lay down some primer. So that's the good thing about putting down some primer in different color. It kind of shows you where your issues still are. So looks like I still have a couple guys to fill in and sand down, but overall it's not too bad. So we'll touch up those few areas that are exposed now that we got a first coat on there, and we'll lay. Wow, the temperature is something else today.
Whew, it's hot.
I think it's like 32 or 33 Celsius. So we go from minus 30 to plus 30 here at Twin Six Garage. But anyway, it helps the paint dry or the primer dry real fast. So it doesn't look too bad. I mean, up close you can still see there's a few more things that I could sand out, but you know, from 10 feet back, it looks pretty darn mint. Okay, so I just put a coat of high build black primer on the back of the cab, and I figure we'll let that tack up. And I needed a break from the sun. That's just too damn hot for me. So I decided to build a makeshift tent here and go to work on the front bumper. So I went to the bolt warehouse and I got some stainless steel bolts for the to mount the bumper, and then I also got some washers and some other stuff to get these Perlux lights put into place properly. And then I got one other surprise. So those that are fans of the movie will know what this is. We'll go ahead and put this on here. How about that?
Well, I don't guess we're gonna be riding in the truck together this time, are we?
Oh, no, son, no, son. I'll be driving this one. Hey, blocker. You'll be driving the truck. This is Bandit 1, and that is...
Bandit 2. Together again.
Yeah. So it's even a Georgia plate, and the gold and black matches the gold and black Kenworth emblem quite nicely. So I figured that just that had to get done. Oh, that's awesome. There, that's looking right. Okay, on to the next thing. Okay, so you remember the last episode, I pulled out the tack and speedo out of this truck because I had reached out to Zip Ties and Bias Plies, and old Peg had agreed to swap the tack and the speedo for his, because he didn't care if they matched the period of his truck, which again I thought was very generous of him. And so he said he'd trade me straight across. So when I pulled this tack out, I realized that it's not the standard mechanical drive. It's like a speedo cable that goes in there and turns the to match the motor speed and shows you what your RPM are. This one is an electronic. So I thought, well, there's no way that his old needle nose Kenworth is going to have an electronic tack. So what I did was I pulled the tack out of the Pete and I swapped him that one. And but then I thought, well, am I going to be able to run a mechanical tack on this truck? And I thought, well, of course you can. This is an old Cummins. There's got to be a way to do it. So did a little digging around on the fuel pump. Just tip the hood forward here and show you. And I'm not sure, that's probably the Jake switch there. But one of these other wires, maybe that one, goes up to feed the electronic tack. But I was digging around in here and I was like, what's this? This looks like a cap. And sure enough, there's the drive that spins the cable that spins the old style mechanical tacks. So all I need now is a speedo cable, and it should work. So I'll show you what he got me. I met up with old Peg, and as promised, I got him a whole bunch of PC light that he likes, and he got me these awesome gauges. So look at that, the authentic Kenworth speedometer and tack. Those perfect. They've got the little fin on the back there, and that's what matches the movie truck. And as you can see, the tack has that's where the mechanical cable goes in. And if you actually give it a spin in the right direction, you can get some RPM. So that's a good way to check these gauges, because I have gotten gauges in the past and you put them in the truck and they don't work. So that's a good way to double check, just to make sure there's no noise and that's a smooth feeling there, no grinding. So the same thing with the speedometer. So So these look like they're both going to work, and I'm sure they do. I think they were working when Peg drove that old needle nose home in that episode when he picked it up. So thanks again, Peg. I can't thank you enough. This is going to be perfect for the movie truck. So there's the Speedo. And here's the tack. So now on the Pete, what I did was the cable was actually kinked and broken, the one when I got the truck. So I took it in and they measured up the length, and you can get them custom made. Traction does them. So I'll just measure this length out, and we'll get a new cable put in. But look how nice that looks. Ah. Give them a little bit of spritz, clean them up a bit. And then not only did Peg deliver me these wicked old gauges, oh that's awesome, but he found me an old, I think this is his buddy's doing a Kenworth that he snapped the back axle off, or cut the back axle off, so it's just a single. It's an old Detroit, and I'll put his name down at the bottom of this video. I just forget it right now off the top of my head. And he's got this wicked old Kenworth that he's doing. It's going to be a race truck. So they took it out. I guess they put a new pedal in. So he gave me the old crooked Kenworth pedal. So that's nice. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually put it in this truck though, because the Reverend gave me that gold and black polished one that I was going to stick on top of that. So I might put this in the Iron Duke. But thanks again, Peg. Very generous of you. Okay, so with that, I think we're just about wrapped on a Saturday, but pretty happy overall. Oh, look at that. Here comes the rain. Just as predicted. So I'm glad that had a chance to dry. Yeah, it's good timing for the end of an episode. So that looks good. We got to do the same thing to the bunk next Saturday. And of course, get that tack cable. And I still got to get my polished tanks from Spectrum so we can put some diesel in this thing and fire it up. And then put it in its new home.